Hey there, welcome. So, have you ever had a really cool topic for a project, but when it came time to actually write about it, you struggled to figure out what your point was? Yeah, we've all been there. Today, we're going to tackle that exact problem, how to take a simple topic and turn it into a focused, powerful research problem that actually gets people's attention and makes a difference.
So here's the game plan for this explainer. We're going to start by talking about how to avoid the dreaded data dump. Then we'll reframe research as a real conversation. We'll break down the two main types of problems you can solve, give you a formula for building your main question, and then, finally, show you how to shape your answer into a claim that really, truly lands.
All right, first up, let's talk about a trap that, honestly, almost every researcher falls into at some point. It's that sinking feeling when you've got piles and piles of information, but there's no central argument, no glue holding it all together.
This is the question right here that you have to ask yourself. Because if you don't have a focused problem leading the way, you just end up collecting facts without any real purpose. And then when you have to write it all up, you just dump it all on the page, and your reader is left scratching their head, thinking, okay, but what's the point of all this? This idea right here completely changes the game. See, real research isn't just about hoarding facts by yourself, it's about stepping into an ongoing conversation, finding a point of disagreement or a gap in what we know, something a specific group of people actually cares about, and then you offer a way to solve it.
And our guide for this whole process is the fantastic book, The Craft of Research. It really lays out the blueprint for how to go from just being curious about something to conducting disciplined, valuable inquiry. Pretty much everything we're covering today is built on the ideas in this text.
Okay, so this leads us to what is probably the single most important mental shift you can make. It's all about changing why you're even doing the research to begin with.
And you can really see that shift right here. A novice often starts with what you might call a mental itch. It's a personal curiosity, almost a hobby. But a professional researcher, they find a problem that an entire community shares. They're not just scratching their own itch. They're contributing to a bigger dialogue and creating what our sources call a social contract with their audience.
And that social contract is so important. What it really means is that you're making a promise to your reader. By building your work around a problem they already know and care about, you're promising them that reading your work will be worth their time, that they'll get a solution, a new insight, something that actually matters.
Now, to make good on that promise, you have to know what kind of problem you're actually solving. And they really boil down to two main types or flavors: practical problems and conceptual problems.
So a practical problem is about something tangible out there in the world, like a bug in a piece of software. And its cost is very real and concrete, like losing money or system crashes. A conceptual problem, though, is different. It's about a gap in our knowledge, and its cost is a little more abstract. It's what the source calls a recursive lack of understanding, which basically means because we don't get this one thing, we can't understand something else that's way bigger.
And that is the secret to making a conceptual problem feel urgent and important. You have to show that answering your smaller, more specific question, we'll call it Q1, is the key that unlocks the answer to a much larger, more significant question, Q2. You're basically building a bridge for your reader, from a small gap in knowledge to a huge new area of understanding.
This, right here, is the ultimate reality check for your research. You have to constantly ask yourself, so what? So what if my question doesn't get answered? What knowledge do we miss out on? What bigger, more important questions will we never be able to figure out? If you don't have a good answer to that, you can bet your audience won't either.
Okay, so how do you actually put together a research problem that aces the so what test? Well, let's get down to it. There's a simple but amazingly effective three-step formula that can help you structure your entire project.
This little sentence is just brilliant because it forces you to be clear. You start with your general topic, I am studying X. Then you narrow it down to your specific question, because I want to find out why. But the magic, the really critical part, is that last bit, in order to help readers understand Z. That's the significance. That's the so what. And listen, getting that in order to part right is absolutely everything. This is where you move beyond what's just interesting to you. Nailing this part is your ticket into the professional conversation. It's you telling your community, hey, you should stop what you're doing and pay attention, because this matters to us.
So you've got your problem, you've asked the right question, you've done the work. Now it's time to deliver your answer. But you're not just delivering a fact, you're making a claim, and a really strong claim has to have a few key ingredients.
You usually start with a hypothesis. Now, don't think of this as your final, written-in-stone answer. It's more like a probationary answer, a temporary one. It's a focused guess that you can actually test, and it gives your search for evidence a clear direction. Now, to level up from that initial hypothesis to a claim that really has some power, it needs to pass this quick checklist. First, it has to be specific, no vague language. Second, it's got to be significant, which means it challenges something people thought was settled, or makes them look at something in a totally new way. And last, it has to be qualifiable. You'd have to be honest about its limits, saying where it applies and maybe where it doesn't.
But here it is. This is the gold standard, the ultimate test of a truly significant claim. The best research doesn't just add one more little fact to the pile. It introduces an idea that is so compelling, so well argued, that it actually forces the whole community to stop, to reconsider, and to change its mind about something they thought they knew for sure.
And that brings us right back to where we started, doesn't it? The whole reason we do all this work of moving from a topic to a problem, of answering so what, of building a significant claim, is to avoid this one single, soul-crushing response. Because when you do this work carefully, you earn your spot in the conversation, you command respect, and most importantly, you make people care.